did the United States land on the moon? Just drop it in the comment right now. Just let us know in the comments field here. Did the United States land on the moon? I already see hundreds of people saying no. Okay, just let us know your thoughts on this. Seems like an easy thing to prove, right? We know the landing site. We know exactly where they apparently landed, right? Show us the landing sites. Show us the evidence. And yet the former head of Russia's space agency and certain Russian academics can't seem to find any evidence at all that the United States actually landed on the moon. Oh boy, this story is going to piss off a lot of people. So here's the guy by the name of Dmitry Rogozin. There he is. That's Dmitry. And he worked at Russia's version of NASA. Not only did he work there, he ran it. He's like the Bill Nelson of Russia, running NASA. So Dmitry was the head of Russia's space agency. He later became the prime minister of defense and ambassador to NATO. He has a degree in journalism, so he knows how to ask questions, pertinent questions, and a degree in economics, a graduate degree in economics. His parents were scientists, and he's not afraid to ask actual questions, as good scientists do. Well, he just posted something on his Telegram channel. He has almost 90,000 subscribers on his Telegram channel. And I've gotten the translated version of it from Russian, but he posted it, and it's very fascinating. So here's his Telegram channel, and it's Rogozin at the front. That's what he calls his Telegram channel. And he says he admitted that about 10 years ago, while he was the head of the agency, he went on a bit of a spirit quest. He was trying to understand something that didn't make a lot of sense to him. You see, he was trying to understand how Soviet cosmonauts did multi-day expeditions in order to land on the moon, but when they returned, they could barely stand on their feet at all, almost like they were handicapped. They had to undergo very long recovery times. And he couldn't understand then how the Americans emerged from the lunar modules, looking like they had just stayed at the Four Seasons.
Because they're Nephilims.
It didn't make any sense to him. It didn't make any sense to him that they were they came back refreshed. You know, when they landed in those modules and they got out and they looked all refreshed.
You know the theory of Nephilims from the Bible, like the angels came down and made superhumans, basically.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
Maybe, it could be. So he started asking some questions like, why would, you see the videos of these guys landing on the moon, right? You see these videos of them, the lunar modules landing in the ocean, and they get out and they looked like, they had just stayed at a Four Seasons. Like they're all refreshed. It didn't make any sense to him. So he started asking some tough questions at the space agency.
Four Season moon.
Yeah. So he started asking some tough questions at the space agency that he was in charge of. He wanted to know where the evidence was that the Apollo 11 moon mission ever reached the lunar surface. Surely, we have, as a competing space agency, we would have overwhelming evidence. We would have photographs of the landing sites, right? You would absolutely have that. You would know with pinpoint accuracy where the Americans had landed. Materials, scientific reports, all of it. We were in a Cold War with these guys. They would know every movement. And sorts of studies. How did the Americans do this? And yet he found nothing at the space agency. Nothing. I'm going to quote him now. This is Dmitry. About 10 years ago, when I worked in government, I sent an official request to the Roscosmos, which is their version of NASA, to provide me with documentary evidence of the Americans' stay on the moon. They were there for days, right? Which at the time was still at the disposal of the federal agency, he says. He continues, I was painfully embarrassed by the fact that the Soviet cosmonauts returning from multi-day expeditions could barely stand on their feet and underwent a long recovery after such flights. And the Americans crawled out of their lunar ships like cucumbers from the garden, he says. He kept pushing his government, give me the evidence that the Americans landed on the moon. And finally, he got a response from a Russian cosmonaut who basically told him to go pound sand for even asking the question. And he sent him a book. He sent him a book called Conquest of the Moon with a comment written by the cosmonaut Leonov. that he said the Americans were there because they told him themselves that they were there. That's literally the only evidence he received. That a cosmonaut says they were there because an American told me they were there. Okay. So the only evidence he got from a cosmonaut was from an American who spoke to him. Yeah, we were on the moon. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, great. So this guy, the former head of the space agency, didn't give up. He says he continued to search for this evidence, but he found nothing. The only thing he got was anger from within his own space agency because of the relationship with NASA. They had a good relationship with NASA. And they didn't want it to be compromised. They told him to drop it, basically, and that he would, quote, aggravate an international situation. So shut up. Don't ask questions. Don't ask anything. But he didn't stop there. He then started asking Russian academics about it, who were in the know, and they all but stonewalled him. We know this is true because in November 2018, academic E.B. Elektronov from the Russian Academy of Sciences gave a really weird interview on Russian radio called Moscow Speaks radio show. And he admitted that, yes, Dmitry did ask him for evidence that the Americans had landed on the moon. So he confirmed the story. And he was put off by the question he described in the interview. And he admits this on radio. There he is. That was the academic who was put off by this. That how dare you ask me this question? And he said basically he was asked, Dmitry then confirmed, he wanted him to show him the landing sites. Because clearly you're part of this. You're an academic who worked at the agency. You know where these landing sites are. You have the materials, the evidence, the studies, all of it. And he said he wouldn't look. He wouldn't look. And the reason he wouldn't look, according to this author, and you can speculate, but according to this author of this piece, says that they would find virginal sites. Nothing there. No evidence that the Americans had landed in those sites at all. If they examined them, there wouldn't be debris. There wouldn't be boxes left over. There wouldn't be a rover that they left behind. There wouldn't be golf clubs. There wouldn't be anything that they purported to have landed there with.
MTV flag?
Yeah, the MTV flag. That wasn't there. But the American flag, like they would be able to find this stuff easily. But he said he was told, no, don't ask questions. Stop asking questions. I think this is an amazing story. So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. What do you think about this head of the Russian space agency saying, I would just love to see some evidence of it. I'm just asking a simple scientific question. How are our cosmonauts coming back from these missions and can't even walk?
And they're wrecked.
And we have video footage of them coming down in the water and they're like, doo-doo-doo, and, a little rough, a little rough.
And you would think, because, the Russians, their disinformation, that, they'd be motivated to
show that Americans didn't land on the moon.
To disrupt this story.
Right.
But so then why are they protecting America?
Well, again, it's because,
thinking,
the space agency is sort of like extracurricular. It's like the space agencies really are like, hey, whatever you guys governments are going to do and fight a war, like with the space agencies are kind of like this, like it's like a really tight knit community of scientists and stuff. And maybe they're just defending who they think are their brethren. I don't know. What do you think, David?
Well, I was going to say, I feel like all of these issues, if we had data to back up these questions that people ask us, we would be proud to be able to give it to them. We'd be proud to give them that info. Here's all the data you want. We were first, all this other stuff. It's like all the softball questions they get, that they can't answer. It's like if they could answer them truthfully, they would be happy to answer them, but they never can. So if they can't provide data, that leads me to question.
And all we have then is the film footage, right? And we have a lack of data. So we don't have it. We don't have there's no we have super telescopes that can with pinpoint accuracy and satellites and get amazing resolution. With the Hubble
telescope. We can see into
other
galaxies.
Yeah, we can look at the Andromeda galaxy, for crying out loud. You mean to tell me we can't zoom in on a crater? And show us the stuff. Wouldn't that be a great thing? Hey, and by the way, he also brings up the point, I forgot to mention this part of the piece. This is a big part of Dimitri's point here, which is